Namaskar, friends. Today we will talk about the entity called desire, which is an expression of ego or ahamkara. And this is the moiety that converts avyaktadhini into vyakt, unmanifest into manifest, nirgun Brahman into Sagun Brahman. So, when there is nothingness, that is the silence of nirgun Brahman. That is the depth of the ocean. When there are some turbulence on the surface, that is the formation of Sagun from Nirgun, the unmanifest giving rise to the manifest. In order to say, I want you, I need you, I like you, the attraction of the world, the attraction of the planets, there has to be two different planets. So the moiety, undivided unity of Nirgun Brahman has to be split, and that crack into this undifferentiated potentiality uh, or the Mahaprana is what generates the prana particles, is what generates the Sagun Brahman. So we know that there is Purusha and Prakriti, and they have been they are Anadi, Anant. They don't have a beginning, they don't have an end. We are Purusha particles, consciousness particles, and then there is Prakriti, which is forming from the Mahaprana, the immense potentiality. So in general, there is Purusha and there is Mahaprana. Now, Purusha cannot have the ability to manifest because it is the hypercore unmanifest entity that is there. Whereas Prakriti, or I should say Mahaprana, has the ability to translate, transmute, transgress, and that way it will become Prakriti and will keep changing. So it is based on the blueprint of keep changing, and consciousness is built on the premise of no change because there is nothing. So you have to be something in order to become something different, and that thing is what is the Mahaprana generating. So we as consciousness particles go and seed, like Krishna says that Mahad Yorin Pata, Bij Pradah Pata. So he is the seed giving moiety. He will implant himself into the Mahaprana, and then Prakriti will form. So what do I mean of Prakriti? We understand Prakriti very well. It is Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhirev Cha Ahankare Me Bhinna Prakriti Rajdha. The 8 elements of Prakriti, Bhumi Rapo Nalo Val, fire, earth, air, water, ether, Manas Buddhi Ahamkar. So we have to understand that that is the sequence in which you are going from gross to subtle. And he stops at Ahamkara because after that there is Sa or soul, and that is not Prakriti. So that is why the Mahaprana potentiality will be able to evolve and dissolve again. Vyaktadini bhutani vyakta madhyani bharata vyakta nidhanya tatka paridevna. You start as unmanifest, you become manifest, and in the end again you become manifest. Now the start and end again is in a snapshot, the snapshot of formation of Mahaprana into Prakriti. So where does desire play into all this? Desire is the inception seed germinating in the ahamkara so that the mahabhuts can absorb all the prana and evolve. Because all these mahabhuts are changing. You see glaciers melting, rivers flowing, cloud forming, rain formation, floods, cycle continues. So whether we have the hubris to say we are life and Mahaprana rivers are not life, or sun is not life. Well, it is the giver of life in the way you intercept it. So all this is life. To me, life is anything that is changing. And in order to change, you have to have the moiety of rhythmicity, vibration, prana. So everything is prana. Different oscillations, that's true, but there is prana. Now, the change is something that will go hand in hand with desire, and there will be different levels of desire. Obviously, the more the desire there will be, the more ego identity there is. So you cannot separate identity from desire. In order to say I love you, there has to be I and you. So there should be a differentiation, the identity of I and the identity of you. And then it is being put together by this glue, if you will, called desire. So I like you, I want you. In Nirgun Brahman, there's undifferentiated unity. I and you are not different. Like Hanuman says, when Ram asks Hanuman, who are you? He says, when I don't know who I am Hanuman. When I know who I am you. So the undifferentiated unity will be reformed from the differentiated particles once the ignorance is dissolved. So come to the concept of desire. See, why is there inherent suffering in the world? Buddha has clearly said there is a cause for suffering. The cause for suffering is desire. So, death of desire is the birth of liberation. We know that. Now, I have talked about this a lot of times, but today I want to tell you why death of desire is birth of liberation. Why is the death of Sagun Brahman going back into the Nirgun Brahman? Vyakta Madhyani Bharata Avyakta Nidhanane. How is the Vyakt, manifest middle portion going to go back into the unmanifest eternity? See, when we have decided that the hierarchy is formation of Mahabhut, Manas, Buddhi, Ahamkara. Even what is not clear to most folks is the hierarchy in which the Sagun Brahman is unfolding. If you understand the hierarchy of unfolding of Sagun Brahman, you will have absolute clarity as to why desire is your foe, not your friend. So the hierarchy, in order to fold it back and bringing into Nirgun, you have to first understand how it unfolded. The sequence in which it unfolded is the same sequence in which you have to fold it back and bring it back to the moiety of Mahaprana, the potentiality. So in order to gain back Nirgun Brahman state, you have to fold the Prakriti back into Mahaprana, and the Chitta has to be transmuted into Atman. So Chitta is the ability in the Prakriti, what we call awareness, consciousness. Now, when there is nothing unfolding around you, there is no activity around you, there's nothing to be aware of. When there's nothing to be aware of, the Chitta will become back the Atman. Now it is very boring, isn't it? To not be aware of anything because there's nothing around is kind of a very static mode. But we call it peace. Why do we call it peace? Unless you have experienced stress, you cannot understand what is peace. Because if there is absolute peace all the time, everywhere, how boring a state it is. There's nothing happening. And this happening tendency in the universe is the is the potentiality, the Mahaprana, giving birth to the Prakriti. Prakriti itself is the manifestation of Mahabhuts. Mahabhut will create this mind, Manas. Manas will create good and bad delineation, Buddhi. And Buddhi is what leads to the soul. So let me help you understand the hierarchy of unfolding of the Mahaprana, or the hierarchy of unfolding in the formation of Sagun Brahman. That is why we say Sagun, because the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, are inherent in Prakriti. So the formation starts with ego. Those two poles will always be confused. The pole of ego and the pole of Indriya. If you have understood Aham and Indriya as the extreme two poles, then you will understand that the Sagun Brahmin starts with the ego and ends with the Indriya. And in a way, the ego going into Indriya, you will see the ego is the modality of Rajas. The Indriya is the modality of Tamas. Rajas is the force that creates change in the universe. So this constant throbbing, vibrating rhythmicity that is generated in prana, that is inherent tendency coming from the quality of rajas. Fire, rapid transformation. Water, slow transformation. So rajas is more in the modality of fire, uh, sun, and that is the modality of rapid transformation. And since it is rapid, it is little uncontrolled process. Whereas the slow transmutation, soaking, rotting, that is the tendency of water. Slowly will change you without you recognizing who are you. Beautiful thing, and that's a tamasic force. But those are, I'm just helping you understand in terms of the Mahabhuts. So, Sagun Brahmin begins with Ahamkar and ends with Indriya. Why? Because Indriya is the heightened point of pleasure. Pleasure is the heightened maximus that you can go for the desire. And Indriya is reflective of reception of those stimulus, because Indriyas are nothing but receptors. Receptors of some unfolding event that is intercepted by the owner of the Indriyas as Manas and enjoyed by the presence of the receptors themselves or Indriya. Now, poor Indriyas, they get saturated very quickly because they have been built in a certain way to be wanting something. So it's like a receptor having a certain conformation and it wants a stimulus to stick onto it. Now, because the receptor, once it's stuck with the stimulus, it cannot receive anymore. So the desire has died there. So at that point, you need more of the same, aka addiction, or you want a new formation, a new reception. So that is why you want something different or you want more of the same. Those are the only two ways desire can manifest in your body. Angam Palitam, what Bhaj Govindam says, Dashan Vihinam Jatundunam Vidho Yati Gritva Dandam Tatvina Muntiri Asha Pindam. The Asha Pind, the Asha is not leaving the Pind. Pind Dan, we say when someone is dead, then you have to do certain rituals so that the soul can go on with the path. But in Hindi, we say a word Pind nahi chhoot raha hai. So the Asha or the expectation complex is so much there, inherent in the Atman, that it is constantly sticking with it. So the Atma cannot uncouple from the desire. If it cannot uncouple from the desire, it will remain trapped in Sagun Brahman. It wants to remain in this ocean of desire. It cannot overcome the desire. So, very important to understand the sequence of Sagun Brahman formation, and then you'll understand how you as the soul are traversing this thread of Sagun Brahman and why we are constantly being reincarnated based on our karmas. So we start with the Ahamkara. Another shlok I will help you understand so you can understand the sequence. In chapter 3, Krishna says, Indriyani paran nunde para mana manasastu para buddhayo buddhe partatu sa evam buddhe param buddha sanstha bhayatmanatmana yahi shatru mahabho kam rupam durasdam. So kam rup, the kam is the desire. There is another word called rag, that is called passion, and that is more explicit of rajas. And kam in general is just telling you a desire, so it can infiltrate all of the Sagun Brahman. But the sequence is above the Indriya is the Manas, above the Manas is the Buddhi, and above the Buddhi is the Sa. So you see, Sa is the highest. Now people get confused, where is Ahamkar? Why did he not mention Ahamkar in this? Because this is a different pathway that is taking in terms of the hierarchy. The Ahamkar is there. Ahamkar is there between Buddhi and Sa. And that we learn from the chapter 7 when he says, Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu Kham Mano Buddharev Cha Ahankar Itte Me Bhinna Prakriti Rajda. The 8 components of Prakriti are fire, earth, air, water, ether. The nothingness of ether is again Sagun Brahman. And Manas Buddhi Ahamkar. Manas being the mind, Buddhi being the delineating intellect, and Ahankar being the ego, Aham particle. So you understand that is the sequence of Sagun Brahman. And Indrani Paranunde Paramana Manasastu Parabuddhe Buddhe Partasusa Evam Buddhe Param Buddha Sanstha Bhayatmatmana. That is the sequence and formation. So let's go back to understand the sequence, how everything unfolded, how the avyakt become vyakt, the manifest become the unmanifest become the manifest. How? There is the totality of Nirgun Brahman that contains Atmans. So it is basically Paramatma complex. Paramatma, when you shatter it, break it down into multiple particles, they become Atman, baby Atmans. So these baby Atmans will now be infiltrated because they are the less than the Paramatman, the totality. The control element is not there. Bharta, Bhokta, Maheshwara. You see, the Paramatma has many components. It is a Bharta, supporter, Bhokta, enjoyer, and Maheshwar, controller. Atman does not have control. It's like a baby toddler. Parents and toddler. Parents have a lot of control as to what has to be done where. Toddlers don't have control. So it's running amok, and that is what is Atman. Uh, it is in the mode of training. So this Sagun Brahman experience is just helping you train that desire is not the best thing to engulf yourself in. Sagun Brahman is not the best thing to engulf yourself in. Okay, so this undivided unity, Paramatman Brahman they call it, it just breaks. It breaks and creates this Atman. Okay, no problem. You are still together in the Nirgun Brahman. Now the cancer will infiltrate. The cancer of boredom. I told you, without stress, you cannot experience peace. If you have no stress, what is the point of having peace? Like they say, why will you miss someone if you have someone? We'll come to that concept. Like why we have this inherent neglect towards things that we are having, the lack of gratitude. Why are we not grateful for the things we have? Because once the receptor is stuck with the stimulus, there's nothing to stick. You have destroyed the receptor. So that the desire, two modes, either give me more or give me something different. And you will keep oscillating between give me more, give me something different. Because there's no third option in desire world. So that is very important to understand that the sequence of unfolding and unrolling starts from the complex unity, unanimous, and that is breaking down. You can call it Paramatma, Brahman. I will not get into the nomenclature distinction because that creates more confusion. But basically, this is the Nirgun complex, Paramatma complex, and that is breaking. The break itself tells you that you want to convert Nirgun to Sagun. So infiltrate, enter Ahamkara. The moment Ahamkara enters, I am Atman, you are different Atman, this is the third Atman, this is Paramatman, totality. So that has already infiltrated. You cannot see it, but you can feel it, just like air. You cannot see it, but you can feel it. The effect of Paramatman breaking down into Atman has already happened. Now, that is where the story starts. Now you have switched on the Mahaprana. The two primordial particles are always there and always in sync. They are born before time, Anadi Anant. So, Paramatman and Mahaprana are always there, but their character is little different because Paramatman is unmanifest, that will remain unmanifest, and Mahaprana is unmanifest, that will go into manifest and come back as unmanifest. And that is what creates the indestructibility, eternity of these two components. But when I'm saying that I'm unfolding Nirgun to form Sagun, and Sagun Brahman is again forming Nirgun, that is the unfolding of the Mahaprana into Prakriti and then back into Mahaprana. You see? And similarly, the Atman going into the world as Chitta and coming back as Atman and then recoalescing into the Paramatma complex. So there is no Atman left. This is all coalescing together. You are dipping into the ocean. The raindrop has dipped back into the ocean. There is no more identity as a distinct raindrop. You are some of the parts and you are the totality now. So that is why you will always do better in community, in the totality forms when you're trying to attain something in the Sagun Brahman world. Okay, let me see if I have laid out the sequence in the right way. Formation of always presence of Paramatma complex. There is Paramatma. There is the Mahaprana. They form the Brahman. Now, this is the unmanifest portion of the Brahman, it will become manifest. So there will be infiltration, enter desire, enter identity, enter ego, call it whatever. I'm calling it aham. So aham has infiltrated the Nirgun complex. Now you are ready to form Sagun complex. The first element that is formed is you and I. In order for me to like you, there has to be you and there has to be I. I love you. Two different entities have to be there. If I am you, there's nothing left to love. How boring a situation we have created. So let's create some differences so we can love each other or hate each other. Okay. इच्छा द्वेष समुत्थेन द्वंद मोहन भारत सर्वभूतानि सर्गे यान्ति परन्तपा. The whole world is mesmerized, deluded in the states of iksha and dvesh, likes and aversions. And Sarvbhutani Sammohan Sarge Yanti Parantapa. Sarvbhutani, all the bhutas, Atmas infiltrated with bodies, have this tendency. Sarvbhutani Sammohan, create Sammohan, a delusion. Because in the heightened state of tamas, your heightened state of indriya, you are sammohit, moh ho chuka hai. So that moh is coming from the indriya. Sarge Yanti Parantapa. Everybody is in the world, established, is going to be experiencing that. Okay, so then when the ego came, the ego created formation of the Indrani Manas Buddhi complex. So you see, there is a saw or soul. Now it is infiltrated first by ego, identity. Because without identity, you cannot create karma. For you to create karma, for you to do something good, you have to be you and I have to be I. And there has to be a distinction between you and I. Otherwise, karma cannot be created. Karma can only be created in Sagun Brahman world. Shari Vak Mano Bhir Yat Karm Prarabte Nara. Nyayam Va Vibritam Va Panchete Tas Hetva. The activities, karma that you create in the three planes, Sharir, Vak, Manas, you can do in the realm of this body, you can do in the realm of the words, you can do in the realm of the man. Even in dream, you are creating karma. The intensity is not that strong, but you are still dream. What are dreams? They are modality to burn karmas. You are still burning karmas in dream. You still thought processes matter, words matter, but thoughts matter too. Some will say, no, I just thought about it. I didn't act on my. Well, every time you are thinking about it, you are creating vulnerability in your system to act on that. Because we are not perfect particles, we are not Neem Karoli Baba. So thoughts do change our words and words will change. If you have incoherency in the thought speech action axis, then you are going to create more dwand. You will create more disorderliness inside your system because there is no clarity of idea. There will be lack of confidence. There will be lack of clarity in what you are doing and what is your right. And when there is confusion, you are in the realm of rajas. Just remember that. Confusion, curiosity, both are elements of rajas. So you have formed the Atman, and then the next thing to form is intellect. Because once you have formed ahankara identity, the next thing to form is intellect. Because you have created good and bad. Now you have to know the distinction of good and bad. Being the Atman that has become the Chitta, awareness has been generated in Sagun Brahmin. You have to know the difference between good and bad, and that difference is what is creating the idea of buddhi. So vinash kale viparit buddhi, they say when there is destruction time, then you will lose your buddhi. So you lose your delineating intellect. So that is buddhi, because that creates samta bhav, that creates the activation in the anhad chakra, because you are able to experience compassion through the ability of having buddhi. And buddhi will be destroyed when there is some strong karma that is being thrown towards you. When prarabdha is unfolding, then sometimes the buddhi will be destroyed, because that is how you are going to experience and burn the past karma that you have to burn. But in any ways, when you are doing dhyana, you are increasing your buddhi, you are increasing your awareness, you are raising the ability of the chitta. When I say chitta, remember it is Atman that is combining with the awareness. Atman plus awareness is chitta. Atman without awareness is just Atman. All of us are particles. But we have created a lot of shields. The Shukshma Sharir, the Sthul Sharir, all these complex things that we have created on top of the Atman. Because Atman plus Karma Bandhan is Karan Sharir. After that comes all these sheathings. What I called ego, intelligence, manas, and then last is Indriya. All those four things, those are Sukshma Sharir. And then of course, then you get this Mahabhut, body, fire, earth, air, water, ether that we created. then you become Jeev Bhoot. Okay, infiltration of the Mahabhoot with the Chitta particle. Because once you die, you become Chitta particle again. You become ensheathed in your Sukshma Sharir. So understand what awareness is. Awareness is an entity that is imparted due to Buddhi. Without Buddhi, very difficult to have awareness. When you do Dhyan, you are going to raise your Buddhi. You are becoming very, and Dhyan will give rise to Gyan. And जो desire hai, that will kill your dhyan. The desire will kill your awareness. You will become very predictable, patterned, tamasic particle. The more predictable you are, the more tamasic you are. That is why Mahaprana does not have awareness. Mahaprana is predictable, patterned, predictable. Animals are predictable. Their awareness is low. The more awareness you have, the less predictable you become. You know what is right, you know what is wrong, but predictability goes down, which is not a bad thing. So having known that, I think it is important to understand that that is the way things unfold. So very quickly, desire is coming from ego. Desire creates the distinction of I and you. Without I and you, there won't be any desire. So once the ego desire complex has formed, it creates something called buddhi. Buddhi creates the distinction of right and wrong, good and bad, distinction of you and I, and then we can implement the buddhi, or what we call the chitta awareness, to know what is right and wrong. When that is muted, vinashkale viprit buddhi, when the buddhi is muted, then the next in line is manas buddhi. I'm sorry, man. That is just the framework of unfolding of the activities in Sagun Brahman. That is what manas is. So manas is acting there, and after manas you have indriya. That is totally tamasic. So what is most rajasic? The most rajasic is ego, the most sattvic is buddhi, and little ability to be rajasic, sattvic or tamasic is manas, and tamasic is indriya. Know that sequence. Ego, rajasic, buddhi, sattvic, manas, trigun, and your indriya, last one, tamasic. So you have to not fall in the trap of indriya. Because what does indriyas do? Desire, inside desire, and the ability to perceive the desire. Well, the desire is rising in the mind, actually, I should say. But the ability to perceive the desire is arising in the indriya. So the mind, the third thing in this sequence, after your ahamkara, buddhi, the third thing that comes in line is manas. So manas is basically the mind, and that is where you're graded in the vritti and the samskara complex. Vritti, what you're actively thinking about, and samskara, what you have thought about and created proclivities, subliminal tendencies that have sunk there. So that is the default mode you will act. So you are full of samskaras based on your past life. And what you are creating now is vritti. So vritti waves and the deep samskaras, those will lie there. That both are parts of manas. And then accordingly, you will develop your receptors to enjoy or suffer. And that is what is called indriya. And then you will become totally prakriti, I should say, or mahabhut at the end. So that is the sequence in which Sagun Brahman is formed. Desires, why do we house desires, and why do we continue to keep having desires? Because desires, either you can have more of the same or create something different. Those are the only two modalities, and that is why we rather miss someone more when they die than embrace when they are alive. Same thing for relationships, same thing for money, same thing for any Sagun desire, object of desire. We will not enjoy it much when we have it, because the receptor has a certain way, and when the stimulus sits with the receptor, the complex stimulus receptor has been formed, there cannot be activation of desire. Either I can change the receptor, either you can give it more, which is called addiction, or you can change the conformation of the receptor, in which you generate a new desire. So that is why you'll see a lot of changes in the sexuality at the extreme leftist end, at the extreme end of the world, extreme tamasic end of the world. That is why people have gender dysphoria. You are certain gender, you feel something different, because you have been satiated by the man female complex. There is such a level of pursuit, relentless pursuit of desire, that desire has been exhausted, so you want to experience something new. So it's a very dangerous path when there is shutdown of the ego, when there is, I shouldn't shut down of the buddhi or awareness. So very important to remain in the realm of Trigun, Manas, and making sure that it is moving more back towards Buddhi, rather it is moving more towards Indriya. So the Manas is the main cornerstone of flip, whether you're flipping Tamasic Indriya or you're flipping Sattvic Buddhi. The more you flip Sattvic Buddhi, the lighter you become. The lighter your body becomes, the more you will go higher and you will understand who am I. The quintessential question of Ramana Maharishi is being explored towards the other end where you are coming from the Nirgun Brahman. Otherwise, you are totally thinking about Sagun Brahman, you are thinking about Indriyas, you think about all the addictions, sex, smoking, alcohol, gambling, gaming, trading. All those things are basically manifestations of uncontrolled, unmitigated, chaotic, cyclical increase that you see in the Indriya activity, the activity to pursue relentlessly, and you rather pursue than get the choice of your pursuit. You rather desire than get a desire of object of your desire. That the chase is more exciting than the kill. So you rather chase than you get what you chase. Because when you get what you chase, you no more have the desire to chase. And when there's no desire to chase, the prana becomes useless. The indriyas are not able to function. So you rather miss that person when they are dead than value them when they're around you. Similarly, when you have food or you have money, house, any material gain you have, if you don't have it, you'll value it more. So as desire particles in this prakriti, we are programmed to suffer because we are programmed to desire. And when you are not desiring, then there can be boredom, and that is the price we pay for going back into Nirgun Brahman. Hope you like this video. Please feel free to leave your comments below. Jai Shri Ram.